Everybody, it's Chris Peters with SharePoint User Insights. We're going to do a quick video here about permissions in SharePoint at a high level to give you an idea of how important permissions are for the site itself as well as the content on the site, and making sure that the right people have access to the right content on the site. This is part one. We'll keep it high level, brushing over some big kind of topics in SharePoint permissions, but then we'll have future videos to dive deep into each of those too. Let's start by hitting the gear in the settings gear here. Now we're going to open up site permissions. Normally you'll see this if you're a site owner. And since we're in modern now, we have the opportunity to click on advanced permission settings here, which will get you down to the classic permissions management page. And here we are at the classic permissions management page. Let's just talk about what's on the screen here. From here at the site level, I can grant permissions to an individual that I need to add to the site that might not have been on the site before. This is also where I create SharePoint permissions groups. You'll notice down here there are three built into the site: members, owners, and visitors, what type of a permission they are or what group they are, and then the levels: contribute, full control, and read. Contribute normally means your average user who simply needs to go to the site and to add documents, work on a document, let's say a Word document, make updates to it, save it to the document library, or to contribute to a SharePoint list, such as a contact list, things like that, or a project task list. So these are contributors. They can't monkey around with page layouts on the site. They can't manage the lists and libraries. They simply are contributors. That's the majority of your people that you are supporting that are using the site. Full control is the highest level for this site for the site owner. The site owner who has full control can manage the pages on the site, as well as create new lists and libraries, manage those libraries, delete those libraries if necessary. So that's a pretty high level of permission, but again, that's because that's for the site owner to use to manage the overall site. And then our last one here is called read. If you've got a site that's got, let's say, 1,000 users, but only 10 of them are really contributors updating content and one full control owner, or the rest simply just need to view the content that's on the site. Those would be folks with a visitors permission group that is carrying a read permission level. Now let's take a look at our ribbon up here. We talked about granting permissions directly, creating new groups. If I had a fourth group in here that was specialized for certain types of content, I might be able to add a new group, give it a name, and then play with its permissions. For now, we're sticking with the top three. These tend to mostly work for the average population of a SharePoint site. Notice edit user permissions and remove user permissions are not highlighted here. That's because we haven't told the ribbon basically which group I'm talking about. If I decided that this site does not have any visitors on it, I could remove the group by selecting this box right here. Notice when I click that, the buttons for edit user permissions and remove user permissions shows up. When I say edit user permissions, it means I want to go in and make a change to the permission level currently at read that's associated with this particular group. We'll get into those into deeper videos in the future on how to do that and why you'd want to do that. Same idea for remove. If I wanted to remove this visitor group totally from my site, I would select it and then I would remove the permissions. We talked about this earlier. I'll just show you a quick demo. When I have a lot of people on my site and they're asking me, what are my permission levels on this site? We can go ahead and do what's called check permissions. You give that a click. It's going to bring up a little panel here where you would put the last name, comma, first name of your end user and select it and say check now. which brings up a form. For me, Chris Peters, I have full control given through the owner's group. I don't have any special web only or limited access permissions. So this is a handy one to use. If I wanted to add another person in here and use the check now, I could do that while this panel is opened. Okay, now let's take a look at permission levels. Permission levels, I'm going to bring up a screen here to tell you that the named permission level, full control, design, edit, contribute, read, and a general description of what permission level will allow that user to do if they're carrying that permission level. We talked about full control, which are your owners, contribute, and read, but you also see a couple of others here. Design tends to be not somebody who owns the whole site, but somebody who may need to update pages and things like that, approve updates to pages. So that's a design permission. Full control has that, but sometimes you don't need to give one of your users who's just working on pages full control of the site. Edit is a relatively new permission added when modern SharePoint came to being. This is a supercharged contribute type of permission. What I mean by that is, if I give someone an edit permission level, they not only can contribute to the site, put documents in, update documents, save documents, delete documents, they also have more control over the lists and the libraries themselves. So it's kind of a little bit dangerous to give your average user edit, because we don't want your average user to accidentally delete the library, delete the list, delete pages that are in the pages library. So keep an eye out. Whenever you see this edit permission level assigned to a person, really make sure they need that level of permissions. Good deal. And again, if I wanted to make a new permission level, we can't alter these, but we can add a new one. And if I clicked on this, again, for a deeper dive in future videos, I could create a new permission level that might have some specific characteristics that these basic default permission levels don't carry. So think of it that way. And we're going to go ahead and move back here. So we're going to go back a little bit. And I'm just going to go back here. There we go. Now we're back to the main screen we were at before. Permission levels. Access request settings has to do with, for this site, what we set for responding to requests for access. Right now, by default, we allow access requests. The owners of the site are the ones that can approve those. Or instead of using the owners group to approve those, we could also simply put in the email address of the person, normally a site owner, to approve someone's request for access to the site. And then at a very high level, for site owners, they again have great control over their sites. Sometimes they need support, and in those cases, the site collection administrator, in this case it's me for the site, can assist a site owner because this site collection administrator permission level is even higher than the site owner. So just think more options available for SharePoint technical support people to help out site owners. That's about it for here. On this banner, you're going to see some content has different permissions. This banner is trying to tell you that for the site, there might be some permissions that are a little different than what we're seeing in the basic groups here. So we can just give it a click. And it's going to tell us there's a videos document library on the site, and it has some exceptions. So we're just going to look at the exceptions. So we're going to open up that library, and we're basically going to see that there's a library out here that might have unique permissions that we would want to, which is okay that they have unique permissions. Maybe this video library is specific to just certain visitors or contributors. But we could always back that off if we needed to by using the Manage Permissions. So you can see we're in a library here. There's a document here called, it's a video, called Sample Video. And the permissions for this are different. So what this means is this document, or this video, has permissions that are different from the site itself, probably more locked down. So that's a good one to keep an eye out. And again, what we're talking about is what this yellow banner is trying to tell you. That's pretty much it. So the high level, let's go back a little bit. And we got here again from the home page, going to the gear. That takes a moment to pop up on our blue bar here. And selecting site permissions and then advanced permission settings. And that's what brings us here. So again, we covered the fact that you could grant permissions to somebody. If I give it a click, a little panel pops up. I could put a name in here, determine whether or not I want an email to be sent, and what level of permissions I would like that person to carry if I add that person directly. I can also go into a group, and when this group pops up, you'll notice the interface is a little bit different. We have a new drop down here just for this group, which is where I would add my user. That's preferred. I want to add users to their correct group. That's a good way to look at it. Or I can look at actions I have available. If I had 100 users in here and I needed to send them a quick email, I could click the email users option, and if I'm on a machine that's got Outlook on it, it'll fire up an email with all those end user email addresses in the to part of the email, which is handy. Before we wrap up, we'll talk about settings for groups. Again, this is all about permissions. Group settings is where I would normally go to see the characteristics of this group, what its name is. I could update its name if I wanted to also. Put a space in there, it might look nicer. General about me for the group. Who the owner is. Who can view the membership. Everybody can see who's in the group, but only the group owner can edit the membership. And we get down into requests. Right now, membership requests are turned off. We could turn them on so that we would allow request access to come in. In other words, someone to request access to the site. And then the last one here, we don't tend to like very much auto accept requests. We'd like our site owners to understand and know when someone's looking for access to the site. So I would stay away from the auto accept requests. And if you do want to let people who, let's say they get an email, or excuse me, a URL from somebody to your site, and they click that URL and they don't have access to the site because they're not in any of the permissions groups, a box would pop up. If it said yes, a box would pop up and let them request access, which is good. They would fill it out. Hi, it's Chris. I want to access this site for this reason. Then that would get reviewed and approved by the group owner in this case. If it's set to no, and I click on that link I was provided, it's simply just going to say you don't have access. It's not going to give them an option to make a request. Good deal. So we're going to move back home. And in this video, again, we talked about SharePoint permissions at a high level. Future videos will dive in deeper to each of the concepts I just covered in this video. That's it. Thanks a lot.